Hello everyone, now you will hear a brief summary of the film Murder in the First, also qui Aster Naitesar. The film is based on true events. After an escape attempt from Alcatraz, Henry Young was thrown into the so-called stone box, a solitary cell located in the dungeon of the famous prison. Henry was forced to endure dampness, darkness, and constant hunger. According to the law, the confinement of prisoners in solitary cells should not exceed 19 days, but Henry spent a whole 3 years in solitary. During this time, the man was brutally beaten and tortured. No matter how much Young tried to keep his sanity, he eventually went insane. He emerged from the hole a madman, just a shadow of the man he once was. Rufus McCain also participated in the escape but betrayed his comrades. For this he was rewarded and left in the general cell. Milton Glenn, the assistant warden, continued to torment Henry. The man cries and swears he will never try to escape again. But the scoundrel just in case cut his Achilles tendon. In order to cut Henry's hair and shave him, he had to be sedated. Unfortunately, it was a cruel joke. Henry was stripped and thrown back into the stone dungeon. The warden finally noticed the strange treatment towards inmate number 244, and the completely deranged man was returned to the general cell, but he can no longer function normally. One of the inmates whispered to Henry that he ended up in the stone cell because of McCain. These words echoed in the madman's mind. He ran up to the traitor and drove a metal spoon into his neck. McCain bled out and died, and Henry Young is now charged with first-degree murder. Young lawyer James Templefield will defend him in court. A Harvard graduate is unlikely to win his first case. The murder was committed in front of 200 witnesses. Thank you for believing in me and giving me this case.
I don't believe in you. This guy is guilty. A monkey could handle this case and it would not do worse. Monkey.
The guard was surprised when James wanted to enter the cell with this madman. Henry huddled in the corner of the cell and did not react to his defender's words. He behaved like a frightened animal, darting from side to side. At 10 years old, Henry Young became an orphan and was forced to take care of his younger sister. At 17, he tried to get a job in a grocery store, and when he was refused, he stole $5. This store also served as the town's post office, so Henry was convicted of a federal offense. Henry's sister was taken to an orphanage, and 11 years later, the man killed Rufus McCain. James spent the whole day trying to get his client to talk, but Henry didn't even look his way. So James used the trick and mentioned that the man stole $500. Finally, Henry opened his mouth to correct the lawyer. He took only $5. The prosecutor refused to involve a psychologist and to give the lawyer a postponement. He is going to throw Henry into the gas chamber as soon as possible. James found a way to connect with his client by talking to him about baseball. How old are you?
I am 24.
I think I'm the same age.
No, you are 28.
James hopes to convince the court that his client is insane and does not realize that during another conversation, Henry exploded and mentioned that he had been kept in complete darkness for 3 years. James did not know about the terrible conditions the man was in. He asked his brother Byron, a well-known lawyer, for advice. Shasti, Atish, Poswaisier. But, according to Byron, this case is doomed to fail. James won't be able to help this poor fellow. Henry perked up. He enjoys talking to another person. He doesn't remember killing McCain, but it must be true if they want to throw him into the gas chamber. Upon learning James has a girlfriend, Henry asks to smell his jacket.
I've never had a girlfriend. Can I try it on?
After Henry spent 2 years in solitary confinement, he was let out to walk for only half an hour. It was a kind of Christmas present. The district attorney is trying to convince the jury that Henry Young, more than anyone else, deserves the death penalty. James does not deny that Henry killed a person. It would be foolish, but during the trial, he will prove that the defendant had an accomplice. The prosecutor believes that James bears full nonsense. This man spent 3 years in solitary confinement. During that time, no one had any influence on him. That's right, 3 years in solitary confinement. Henry stole $5 to feed his starving sister. He was thrown into America's toughest prison, and then into a stone cell. A speech in the background. How did he become such an embittered creature? Henry was merely a weapon. The killer was Alcatraz itself, and the wardens who worked there. James's statement caused a real storm in society. Ordinary citizens believe that it is foolish to judge a prison, and the sadist Milton told the press that the prisoners are provided with everything necessary: food, medical care, and more. Hand on the Bible. Stop. I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. The prosecutor questioned all the guards who witnessed McCain's murder. According to them, the accused supposedly did not look crazy. He never shouted and behaved like an ordinary person. Henry Young is a cold-blooded killer. The head of the law firm pressured his employee. He was afraid to handle such a high-profile case against an entire prison. But James is not going to back down. He hopes to find witnesses who will take Henry's side. He himself, the defendant, has long come to terms with his fate. The main thing is, I have a friend my age to talk to, until they send me to the gas chamber. James hopes to find inmates who will confirm that terrible things happen within the walls of Alcatraz. But all of them, on the contrary, praise the prison guards because they understand that telling the truth would make their lives hell. Screw you. Is it Mr. Glenn who forbade you from cooperating with me? Screw you. Screw you. Thank you very much for giving me your time. You're welcome. James demanded to be shown the dungeons of Alcatraz. Milton tried to keep the lawyer out, but James already obtained a court order. The photographer took pictures to show everyone what the solitary cells are like here. Prisoners sleep next to their waist. The lawyer's assistant Mary felt unwell and was taken outside for fresh air. The boss removed James from the case and appointed Mary as the defendant's lawyer instead. However, Henry now constantly stares at her legs. Mr. Young, I want you to stand up. My chest stood up the moment you walked in. If Henry perceived James as a friend, then Mary became an object of sexual attraction for him. I want to touch you slightly, just a little. Are you crazy? Stop it. Stop it. I'm not touching you. I'm touching myself. Seeing the guard, Henry huddled, and their cooperation with Mary ended there. James returned to his duties. Oh, Mary would have been a great first girlfriend for him. Jim, I'm teasing you. I know she's your friend. I remember the scent of her perfume on your jackets. James quit that firm and now runs a private practice. They decided to pressure him through his older brother. Edgar Hoover, the FBI director, is protecting Alcatraz. You are under scrutiny. What? No one will talk. Everyone disappears. Byron asked his brother at least not to call the director of Alcatraz as a witness. He is a protege. Hoover, one of the former Alcatraz guards, contacted James and agreed to talk about the atrocities he was involved in. The lawyer went to Chinatown, and he was beaten there, along with the potential Zirche Driji Dou as a witness. To get Henry to agree to testify in court about his injuries, James brought him a prostitute who pretended to be a stenographer. The prisoner had only 4 minutes to make use of her. I can't. Of course you can. I can't. I can't. You can. I can't. I can't. The woman could not please Henry, and the poor guy burst into tears on her lap. Milton Glenn was called as a witness. The lawyer started questioning the inspector about the dungeons. The cells are 2 by 3 meters. There are no lighting fixtures. And in 3 years and 2 months, Henry was only taken out once for a half hour. Uzamavkeli, umakostish, uma ozakumavkano. Awok. During Milton's time working at Alcatraz, 32 people were taken to the psychiatric hospital from there. This prison literally drives people to... Milton denies ever beating the prisoners, but James knows that he hit Henry with a baton in the face, ordered him to be thrown off the iron staircase, and cut his leg, leaving him for life. Lame, and I will not allow myself to be treated the same as those lying twice convicted murderers. Quiet, Mr. Glenn. Milton did not yet know that the next witness would be the guard Simpson and would testify against him. But the prosecutor presented his words as an attempt to get back at the boss. After all, Simpson was fired for drunkenness. Therefore, his testimony was not accepted by the jury, and it was Byron who framed his brother. He saw Simpson's photo on James's desk and helped the prosecution prepare. For this, the lawyer will call for to
The chief of Hampson Prison. Henry dreams of being real friends with James. Why did they put me in this bag for 3 years? I could have been just like you. Hampson appeared in court and said they initially put Henry in a stone cell for an indefinite period, supposedly to help the guy reform. Meanwhile, James found out that Hampson was not involved with the prison at all. He went there 2 or 3 times a year. Before the trial, the man had never even seen Henry Young. This guy didn't harm anyone. But right after the so-called rehabilitation, he killed another inmate. Henry Young wasn't a killer until he ended up in Alcatraz. They made him that way. But he tried to escape, is all that Hampson matters. James told Henry with relief that he no longer faces the gas chamber. He will get a maximum of 10 years for second-degree murder. But Young intends to plead guilty. He would rather die than go back to Alcatraz. He cannot endure another 10 years. James wanted to give Henry a gift and show him what he should live for. After 11 years, Henry saw his sister Rosetta again. The girl said she named her newborn son Henry after her brother. But Henry will still plead guilty. He fears the prison guards more than death. Take care of yourself. James finally called Henry his friend, and he is not going to declare his friend guilty. If Henry wants, he can say it to the court himself. That's why James called the defendant as a witness. And Henry stated that he wants to plead guilty, but only because he would rather die than go back to Alcatraz. This time, his words were heard by dozens of people. I would rather die than go back there. Can't you understand that? I am afraid of them. I am afraid to return there. I am afraid. James asked his friend to help put an end to the lawlessness. Otherwise his death would be meaningless. Henry Young, are you guilty of Rufus McCain's death? I was a tool, but I'm not a killer. They are the killers. The jury members found Henry Young not guilty of first-degree murder. He was found guilty of manslaughter. He will serve a maximum of 3 years. They also signed a petition demanding an immediate investigation of Alcatraz prison. They consider its warden and deputy warden guilty of crimes against humanity. Alas, Henry Young is now returning back to Alcatraz. James promised to seek his transfer to another prison. This was the last time the attorney saw him alive. A few days later, Henry was found dead in his cell, and the word victory was scratched on the wall. Not before his death. The man stopped being afraid and laughed in the face of his greatest fear. I won. You can't take this away from me. Milton Glenn immediately ordered Henry to be taken to the stone box, and from there he never returned. 7 months later, Alcatraz's dungeons were closed forever. Milton was found guilty and never worked in correctional facility